Hello, everybody. I'm just getting myself organized here. It was a bit of a whirlwind of a morning, and speaking of happy in the storm of life, it's like, yes, that was very fitting for me today. And I'm just gonna bring up, I have a squeaky chair. I hope you guys can't hear that. If you hear some odd sounds, I swear it's my chair, not me. I'm just gonna bring up the little blurb that I had regarding the topic today, because I feel as though it's just very highly relevant. I apologize that I didn't have this up before I hit go live. My computer's just thinking here for a second. Give me one sec. Sometimes we have to improvise here a little bit. There it is. Okay, so I'm just going to read the inspiration for this Facebook Live today. So, you know you're winning when you're happy for no reason, when you don't attach your happiness to anything or anyone, you become free. And the image that I created for this conversation today was just like a lady sitting in complete peace and calm and just like chill with this crazy, like, books and papers were flying and the trees were like all over the place in the image behind her. And I just really feel that that was such a good representation of what I wanted to talk about today with finding happy in the storm of life. Because life is freaking, it's so hectic and it's so busy, and there's so many like working pieces and working parts. And I'll give you an example of this morning. So I basically, yesterday, I had my day all planned out for today, and I knew what I'd be working on, I knew what I'd be doing, I knew the times that I had to do things. And then I get a call from the school yesterday afternoon, and my son hit his head at recess, and they thought he might have a concussion. And then it basically, like, the rest of my day yesterday, nothing really happened the way I had planned. And today so far, from the moment I woke up, nothing really happened the way that I had planned for it to happen yesterday. And so luckily I was able to get him in for an appointment to get checked out. And then we had no food in the fridge, so I'm like, okay, I'm already in the city, like, let's just grab some food quick. And then it's an hour later, and then it's just like, okay, we have to hurry and get home and get the stuff that we need in the fridge and freezer. And then I have to get organized for my conversation with you today, because there was like no way I was gonna cancel that, because it's kind of like a priority thing, right? Like, this is a huge priority for me. But it's just like, it was such a clear reminder of the happy in the storm of life. And honestly, normally when my plans get changed, and when I call it like the like life bombs, like when all of a sudden, or plan bombs, like all of a sudden something happens that completely changes like what you thought you would be doing, or what you had set up, or it takes longer to do something and then you don't get something else done. And it's like, for me personally, stuff like that would take my happy away instantly. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I was a little bit flustered yesterday and this first thing this morning, trying to figure out like, well, how am I gonna rejig everything? And but I kept this in the back of my mind, like today's topic in the back of my mind. And it's like, I can still be happy. Like, even though my plans have completely gone out the window, and now my son is home from school today, and he might be home tomorrow as well, and I had tomorrow fully planned as well. It's just like the ability to bend and move and like change course and change direction in the storm of life while maintaining that happy, calm, like it's okay truth and vibe within us. So ironically, it appears that whatever topic I choose to talk about for these conversations, there will be something relevant in my life as a reminder and as an example of what I'm going to be talking about that day. So I better not pick anything too obscure or like nothing too like ominous as a topic, because I do not need ominous in my life before I talk. had enough ominous for a lifetime. So basically, I'm gonna kind of give you an insight into why I would choose this topic. So I got to a point in my life where everything was good. Like married, kids, like I worked out all the time, like I ate healthy, I had lots of friends, and like everything on the outside appeared as though it was going great and everything was really good, and just that like I had all these things around me and all these people around me that should make me happy. And they were like, you know, it was happiness promoters, let's say. Like there was no reason, with all the things I had and all the people I had, there was no good reason for me to be unhappy or anything but happy. And I had tons of guilt, and I kept a lot to myself at that time for like 15 years or so. Decade, you know, a decade here and there. But I kept a lot to myself because I was very, very unhappy. Very unhappy. And it just, like, the two didn't add up, because I had friends and I had the body and I had like the activities and I had the kids and I had the husband and I had all of this stuff on the outside, and it should have equaled happiness as far as I was ever taught. And I was very unhappy and very not in a good place on the inside. And so like the scales just kind of got tipped. My hands look weird, but like the scales just got tipped further and further and further away from each other. And I just really, like, the gap got too big. And I mean, you kind of have those breaking moments, or you have those light bulb moments, or you have those moments that just like knock you down and make you like stop and look at things. And that was definitely one of those moments for me, because it's like, I have no good reason not to be happy. Why am I not happy? Why am I not happy? And I really started to ask why. And I just feel that like when you start to ask why, then you start to get answers and you start to get insights and you start to understand like, well, yes, I had this great house, but I was totally overwhelmed and I couldn't keep it clean, and I was always flustered and frustrated. Like the kids were too little to put their stuff away, or I never taught the kids how to put their stuff away. And so it's like, yes, I have a great house, but it's always a freaking mess. And it's always a freaking mess because I don't like cleaning up that much, and I never taught my kids to clean up. So it's kind of like, well, your house is always going to be messy because nobody's cleaning it up. And nobody's cleaning it up because I was prioritizing other things instead of cleaning my house. And that's fine. Like if we prioritize something on top of something else, that's fine. But then we can't lose our shit because of what we've prioritized. We cannot lose our shit because we made something a priority and something else is falling by the wayside. You have to accept that something is going to fall by the wayside if you're putting one thing, like I put spending time with my kids over, and volleyball. I had like two big things in my life at that time, spending time with my kids and volleyball. And yes, like I chose to put those at a higher level and a bigger priority than cleaning my house. But then I got really, really frustrated and upset and pissy because my house was never clean. And it was just kind of always like, I just felt like the standard that I wanted it to be at, it was not at that standard. And that caused me a lot of stress and it took my happy away. And so when I talk about like finding happy in the storm of life, it's very much like we actually start out happy. Like by nature, we know what happy is. We know how to be happy. And I always use examples of babies because anyone that's ever been around a baby or a parent or like a family member of someone who has a baby, unless they're poopy, hungry, tired, or they have like gas and tummy troubles, babies are happy and they're content and they are so peaceful. And I just really started to use like my knowledge of babies as an example of like, well, I bet I used to be happy. I bet I used to be content. I bet I used to be peaceful. I bet that I didn't used to like mind frick myself constantly. I bet you that I learned all of this stuff throughout my life that has taken me away from my true nature. And if that has happened to me, I bet you it has happened to many, 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 many of you. And so this really is just like, sorry, my hair is a little bit tickly and it feels staticky just because I've been running like a crazy woman all day so far today. But it really helped put things back into perspective for me that I was happy and peaceful and content. And I believe that we all were. Maybe it was only for a day. Maybe it was only for a week. Maybe it was only for a month out of our life. But we were that until we weren't. And so it's like, I just feel that so many of us have been unhappy or things have made us unhappy for so long that we actually forget what happiness feels like. And we forget that we actually started out happy and we actually started out, different than what we are now. But what we don't realize, and what I didn't realize for a really long time, is that what I became was not the truth of me. It was not the truth of my existence. Like it was not the truth of how my life was meant to be. It just was like what my life had become. And I think like that, just realizing that gave me so much hope. And like, we all have different degrees of like happy and unhappy, but like when you become extremely unhappy, even just the thought of being happy, something as simple as, oh my gosh, I think I might be able to be happy again. Even something as simple as that is a huge deal. And like when I say like that realization gave me hope, I'm actually serious. Like I was so unhappy that like even thinking I could be happy again was a big deal. Like that was a super big deal for me. And so thus began my quest of literally purging and like unloading and cleansing and just freeing myself from all of these things in my life that were taking me away from being happy. So it's like, here's happy, and then here's like all of the stuff that got piled on top that like pushed my happy further and further down and further away from me. And then like I had this huge pile of shit that was not happy on top. And so I began working through the pile of shit so that I could free the natural happiness from within me again. And the crazy thing is that when everything in my life was working and everything in my life was like externally was fine and like picture perfect, blah, 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 that's when I was most unhappy on the inside. And these last 2 years, so many things have been like really messed up and really stressful and really difficult and really challenging in multiple areas of my external life. Like if I'll just give you a few examples, like health scares, deaths, family crisis, relationship crisis, like career change for my partner, possible move out of a province. Like there were so many huge freaking ass-kicking things externally that I've been working through and that we've been working through and that we've been dealing with in the past 2 years. And that's why I say, like, I've been in the trenches and I've been in the tunnel of life in this huge growth phase these past 2 years, because like the external world was kicking my ass. And but the irony is that internally I was way happier than I had ever remembered being. Now that doesn't make sense, does it? Like when your external world is falling apart and everything is breaking down and like relationships are breaking down, health is breaking down, like family is breaking down, things are like really breaking down, but yet I'm happier internally during that process than I was when everything externally was tickety-boo and pretty and perfect and whatever. And so it's just a testament to, well, what actually, like, where does happiness come from? And that's why I say, like, finding happiness, because it's really like, you can find happiness anywhere. You just got to get rid of what's piled on top and what's preventing you from being happy. And you can be in the shittiest circumstances externally ever and still be happy. However, it's very, very hard to be happy when the shit is falling apart internally and everything could be totally fine and lovely externally. But it's very hard to be happy if your internal is out of whack and it's not in a good spot. And so ironically enough, like, I'm basically proof that happiness does not come from people, places, or things. You can have people in your life that help build that happiness. You can go places that help like enhance the happiness. You can have things that invoke the happiness to come out of you even more. However, if you do not have that happiness alive and like flourishing within you first, it doesn't matter what person is in your life. You're not going to be happy. It doesn't matter where you go. You could be in the most beautiful place on the planet and still be miserable. And it doesn't matter what things you have. You could still be miserable. When you're not in here, when you're not in a good place internally, nothing externally is in a good place, basically. You can't appreciate it. It doesn't give you what it's meant to give you when you're not in a good place internally. So I'm here today to talk about like the internal happiness and really help help you guys just really focus on the internal for a bit and become very connected and very aware of this internal, and that it's like happiness is our true nature. Peace is our true nature. Calm is our true nature. Content is our true nature. And it's just about like, well, what is piled on top of all that that's taking me away from what is by nature like the truth of me and how I could be, basically. So there's a few things. Like, I really like to promote journaling. I think it's a really good way of getting like all of the spirals in our head and our feelings and like our emotions like clear. And so I'm always a big fan of journaling as we're learning, as we're going through this process, as you're having these like light bulb moments or these moments of like, okay, that makes sense. Like, let's journal about it. Let's write about it. Okay. So the first thing that I would like you to do is just like think of a baby and think of yourself as a baby, and just imagine that likely, like I say, even if it was for a day, you were happy. And now I would like you to consider life and the storm of life. And it's like, okay, well, here's some possible things that have taken me away from happiness. Because it doesn't take our happiness away. Like, our happiness is still there. It's just, it takes us away from it. It just piles on top of our happiness. Okay? So let's just think of a few things. Well, there's childhood trauma. There's learned behaviors. There's people around us that you know, whether it's their personality or it's their vibe or it's their outlook on life, as children especially, we tend to repeat, like we're like little copycats. Like, we kind of just copy whatever the vibe is until we get old enough to start choosing our own vibe and our own thoughts. Like, that's more in the teenage years. So we're very much like sponges, and we're very much like little copycats as little munchkins. And we start to copy and just repeat and absorb what is going on around us, and the actions and the thoughts and the opinions of everybody, and even the vibes of the people around us. And so by the time we get to our teenage years and we're a little more feisty and a little more independent, we've already soaked up a lot of stuff from whatever was around us. Even what we watch on TV as kids has such a huge influence on our little minds. Okay. So, you know, think back to the people around you when you were a kid. Think back to the circumstances that were around you. Like, it was, for me, it was a very stressful, there were very stressful circumstances around us all the time, because everything depended on Mother Nature. And like, that's usually kind of tricky when you don't have a lot of control over how things work out, which basically we don't, even if you're not dependent on Mother Nature, you still don't have a lot of control over how things work out. But, you know, I just feel that like farming and other professions as well, but farming is one profession where you're really up to the mercy of Mother Nature, whether you get a crop off or not. So I just learned a lot of that, like kind of like constant stress and constant worry and constant uncertainty, which when you're little, basically like ages 0 to 8, 0 to 10, your whole foundation is of you and of your life, and how you perceive life is based on safety and security and nurturing. And so if you grew up in a dynamic that lacked that in some or one or some ways, that could have could still have an effect on you and your ability just to like be calm and be happy with your circumstances and, you know, work with your circumstances. So, it's just really interesting how much our childhood does affect our present reality and adulthood. So we're looking at the circumstances, we're looking at the people around us, we're looking at the shows that we watched, we're looking at any traumas or any traumatic events, like actually even worldwide traumatic events that happened as we were kids. Like I remember the spaceship, was it Apollo 13? One of the the spaceship, when I was a kid, there was a spaceship that like blew up as it was lifting off. And I apologize for everyone that does know the actual name of that. I can't think of it right now, but I just remember like very devastated like people, and I think I was only in grade 1, maybe grade 1 or 2, and I just like I didn't understand what was going on, but I felt the like horror of the adults around us at school as we all gathered together to watch this rocket like take off into space. And I just remember seeing like, I'm like, whoa, like and I just remember thinking like that was really like, wow, they sure have like a lot of like explosions with the rockets when they're taking off. And then I just remember feeling like the vibe of horror for the teachers. And I just remember like the TV got shut off and everybody got taken back to their classrooms, and it was kind of like, nobody talk. Like, we're just going to pretend that didn't happen. We're not really going to talk to you about it because it's the 80s and we don't talk about stuff in the 80s. And we're just going to go about our day. So don't ask any questions and we're just going to move on. Like that's basically what I remember from that event. However, I felt the sadness and I felt like the horrible feeling of the adults that knew what was going on, or the older kids that knew what was going on. My little brain, like I had no clue. I just was like picking up the vibes and the feelings of everyone around me. And there was like huge sadness. And so you kind of wonder like, well, what impact did that have on me? And what impact did sadness of others have on me as I was a kid growing up? And so you just allow yourself some time to just think. Like I did not know that I was going to remember that rocket launch and share it with you until I saw the image in my mind as I'm talking, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember like this event happened in my childhood. Like, just so you know, like that was not a pre-planned memory at all. It just came to me in the moment as I was talking and describing to you guys. And our mind is so amazing. It truly is so amazing because, sometimes all we need is just to be able to have a conversation, or just be able to journal, or just be able to like free flow with our thoughts and just speak like off the cuff. And then our mind will show us things, or will remember things that we're like, oh, haha, that's a memory. But no, it's so relevant. It's still alive in me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have remembered it. And it's just like, okay, now that's something that I can work through and that I can let go of, because obviously what's coming to me intuitively is that like I've been holding the sadness of all of the teachers and all of the people that knew what happened in that moment on that TV in 1980, whatever. And I had no freaking clue cognitively what was going on, but I felt the sadness and I took it in. And so once, like, as we do the meditation for this, I'm going to release that for myself as well, because like I've been out of grade 1 for quite some time now, and I just really don't need to carry that sadness from that event any longer. And it doesn't mean that I don't care about the event, or I don't have compassion for the people and the families from that event. It just means that like I'm ready to let that go. I don't need to carry that sadness within me anymore from 1980 whatever, from an event that, you know, I just saw as a kid. So we're going to keep building off of these pieces that take us away from our happiness. So I just feel that like TV and society and like the fear, the news, like, oh my gosh, like honestly, I have a theory that a lot of our food issues and allergies actually stem from all the generations, and maybe like so many people still do it. However, I'm just throwing this theory out there that all the generations of people whose parents watched news while at supper time, while at lunchtime, I am certain that what we were watching, especially as kids, because we're so open and everything is so literal for us as kids. But as we're kids and as we're sitting there watching the news, as we're eating our peanut butter and jam sandwich and our bread, and as we're like, because God, we all ate so much bread back then, like it was ridiculous. Like 6 pieces of bread a day, no problem. But it just is like, what you're seeing as you're eating, your brain is trying to register like, well, I'm really upset right now. Like, this is really bothering me. It must be the food. Well, no, it was what we were watching on TV that we were taking in, and it was like, oh my God, the world is scary. The world is bad. Like, the world is going to hurt me. But the body and the mind registered it as, our food is bad. Our food is hurting us. Our food is like the problem here. And ironically enough, it's actually a generational thing. I feel like I'm really talking about some philosophical stuff here right now, but I feel that like a lot of my generation and earlier watched this stuff. Like we were like the flashpoint of this, like we were the epicenter of it. But now it's affecting our kids because like it happened to us, but the effects are being felt by the next generation and future generations because of what we took in all the time when we watched news all the time and like learned about all the horrible things going on in the world as kids. And I find even as adults, like I really struggle to watch the news because I'm an empath and I'm very sensitive and I feel everything that's going on with everyone. Like it really doesn't matter what's happening to someone else. It doesn't have to happen to me. And like, I'm feeling that pain. I'm feeling the sadness of those people. And so even as an adult, like I really struggle to watch the news because it's very traumatic. And I feel that trauma even just by watching it. So there's another little piece. Another one is movies. And, you know, the types of movies that we're watching, like if they're very dramatic or if they're horror movies or if they're the heartbreaking movies, that can have a lasting effect on your ability to be happy because you're just carrying so much of what you've seen. And yes, like those tearjerker movies are the best. However, we've got to learn how to leave the tearjerker and that sad story, like leave it at the theater. Don't bring it home. Don't carry it with you because it has the potential to affect your ability to be happy in your own life just by what you've watched and what you've experienced through someone else on the movie screen or in your TV show or whatever it may be. So it's really, really interesting. Just as we learn all of these things that potentially are piling up on top of our happiness and our ability to be happy. And I mean, of course, there's our own experiences and our own heartbreaks and our own pain and our own our own sadness and our own struggle, that sometimes we hold on to it, even though we've overcome it, even though we've got beyond it, even though we've worked through it, even though we're not in it anymore. So often that experience, we still carry it in us, and it's like we're through it, but we haven't let it go, and it's still like bringing up sadness within us. And yeah, it's like it so many people, because I've worked with a lot of clients who have been through very traumatic things, and like I've been through plenty of my own as well, and I'm no different than any of my clients. But it's just that, like, there's this weird little thing in the mind that tells us, well, if I let go of the things, I'm gonna forget them. And I don't want to forget them because I don't want it to happen again. And I don't want to fall for whatever. I don't want to like do the same thing over again. So the mind's way of justifying that is like, well, let's hold on to it then. Let's carry it in us as baggage so that we don't do that again, or we don't let that happen again. And that's a strategy that I think has just, I don't even know where that came from. Well, it's like, just move on, just move on, just move on. Like, don't talk about it, deal with it and move on. I just don't think many of us were ever taught to let it go. And there is a huge, huge, huge difference between moving on and letting go. And it's really funny because, the realization that I had was like, well, how dumb do we think we are? Like, do we not give ourselves any credit at all to be smart enough and to like retain the lesson without having to retain the baggage and keep the baggage? It's like, we're highly intelligent beings, and our mind is like one of the most potentially sophisticated, like operational things on the planet, basically. Like, it's insane how like the potential of our mind is limitless, in my opinion. But we kind of like discredit ourselves, and we kind of like just kind of dumb ourselves down in a way, because it's like, well, what if you don't have to hold the baggage? Like, what if your mind is so smart that once you've learned the lesson, you have that lesson, like it's in there, like there's like a stamp of approval in your mind. And all you need is the lesson. You don't need the baggage. You don't need the trauma. You don't need the pain in order to remember the lesson and to have that knowledge within you. So when we carry our pain and we carry our baggage, and most of us I did it because I didn't even know I was doing it. I just like, that's what I did. I just carried my baggage with me, and no one ever taught me to let it go. But now that I know how to let it go, it's just like, I don't need the baggage. I don't need the pain. I don't need the suffer. I don't need the constant reminder. Like out here, no thank you. Like, I've got the stamp of approval from the lesson ingrained in my mind. And I know my mind is so intelligent and it knows what it's doing. I don't have to keep all this other stuff, because this other stuff is preventing me from being happy. It's taking my happiness away. And so I'm just going to do a little ask of my higher self here. Is there any other topics of what takes? Yeah, no, that basically sums up like what takes it doesn't take our happiness away. What takes us away from our happiness? So I'm just going to recap. It's the vibes and the circumstances and the situations around us. It's what we've learned from the people around us. So like the influence of people around us. It's the like TV, movies, the programming, the news, all things that are coming in. And then our own experiences, and there's another one. It's the pain and the baggage that gets passed down, like through osmosis, through our family tree. And, you could call it intergenerational trauma. From a cultural standpoint, culturally, there are so many cultures around the world who have had horrible, horrible, horrible things as a culture done to them, and they're carrying, it's called intergenerational trauma. It just means like whatever is not resolved in one generation continues through, and the pain and the baggage and just like the trauma from the previous generation goes to the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, until someone like heals it and someone lets that go. And like, unfortunately, it's almost like these things happen to cultures of people, but the healing is not happening at a cultural level. It's happening at an individual level, which, like, that's kind of sucky. It's going to take a lot longer for that to happen than if the healing could just be done culturally. And I'm kind of working on some of that, actually. Like, I've been having insights and messages and lots of just different things intuitively coming to me as far as like helping cultures heal and not just individuals within cultures heal. However, not everyone is from a culture who had major trauma done to the culture. But we still have intergenerational trauma because, like, from a family standpoint, from a loss standpoint or a trauma standpoint, like within the family. So that as like, I know that's going to sound far out for some of you, but holy smokes, like it's so legit. It's so real. It's like, I see it all the time. I see it in myself all the time. I see it in my clients all the time. It's just amazing when you're working at the root of what's causing these things in our life. It's amazing how often it goes back to, well, what happened to someone however many generations before us. And it's just that trauma, because the trauma is energetic, because trauma is not just physical. It's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's energetic. And so, yes, the physical trauma dies with the person who endured it. However, the physical trauma is the only thing that's not considered like energy. And so there's the emotional trauma, the spiritual trauma, and the energetic trauma. That carries on. And so like so many of us are carrying trauma and sadness and grief and loss and heartache and like all of these very heavy things within us, and it's not even ours. I'm going to say that again. It's not even our stuff. Now think about that for a minute, because whether it's you or whether it's someone in your family or someone you know, I believe we all know someone who is way more sad than what's justified in their own life because of what has happened to them in their own life. There's people who are like, they're just like, they're hurt, they're hurting, they're wounded, they're heartbroken, they're depressed, they're sad, they're even, anxiety, they're anxious, they're fearful, they're angry. Oh gosh, like so much anger, like holy shit, like so much anger. And if you were to look at yourself, if you're that person, or if you know someone, or if your child is like that, look at yourself or look at that person and say, is how they are justified by what has happened to them in their life? Does it make sense? And that was me in a nutshell. Like, it was like nothing in my life that happened to me, or even the struggles in my childhood and the hardships in my childhood, none of that equals. It is not equal to, like, I always love this symbol in math. Because it just, like, it applies to so much in my life. Like, what is going on is not equal to what is going on. Or how I'm feeling is not equal to what just happened. Or how sad I am does not equal the thing that is making me sad. So not equal to. And, you know, being inquisitive is actually a gift. Like, I know that so many people get irritated with people and children who are very inquisitive, but being inquisitive is such a huge gift, because that's how you're able to, like, figure stuff out, is when you challenge things and you ask about things and you're pondering things, because it's the only way we're ever going to figure this shit out, in my opinion. Is you have to ask questions, and you have to challenge sometimes the status quo, and you have to challenge the reasons, because the reasons are just not good enough. It's like, oh, well, at face value, Shannon is very sad because her daughter got smashed playing ringette. Okay, well, Shannon just overreacts completely when her daughter gets hurt playing ringette. That's just Shannon. Well, yeah, that is true. Like, I totally overreact, and I totally, like, I'm devastated whenever, especially my daughter, like, my son hasn't really got smashed up too bad, like, in front of me. Like, he got smashed up, but I wasn't there, so I just have to deal with the after effects. But there's something about seeing my child get hurt, and it would be the same, daughter or son. It's just my daughter has got hurt in front of me more often than my son. But there is something about seeing, for me especially, like, my child get hurt and not know how hurt she or he, that just, like, causes me to lose my shit. And I totally overreact, and I know that I overreact because when other parents' kids get hurt, they can stay calm and, like, yes, they're upset and they're worried, but they don't lose their shit to the extent that I do. And so on the surface level, you could say, well, Shannon overreacts because her daughter got hurt. But for me, I'm instantly, like, once I'm done crying and being sad, it's like, well, why? Like, why did I overreact? Why did I feel completely heartbroken and devastated, which then caused me to bawl? And then it's like, well, it just is this feeling of loss, and it's this feeling of sadness. And then I'm like, okay, well, then where did that come from? And my mind is like, I have no freaking clue. As soon as you say to yourself, you ask yourself questions, as soon as there's no reason, there's no logical answer, that's how you know that you're carrying something from someone else, family, whatever, from down the line. That's how you know you're carrying a generational something, because your reactions or your response or how you feel does not equal what just happened, and, like, what is feeling like a normal response for what just happened or for what you're experiencing in your life. Like, so another one is anger. I had to purge a lot of anger out of me. Like, I still work on that, actually, because I still, from time to time, have a hothead reaction. Luckily for everyone in my life, it's no longer like an instant for everything hothead reaction like it used to be. But I really, like, so anger is another really good example of, like, oh my God, I'm so mad. Well, does everyone get so mad for that one particular thing happening? Well, no. There's other people, if that same thing happened to them, I'm just getting, like, fender bender. Okay, so, like, let's imagine that you were in a fender bender. Well, does every single person in that fender bender react in the same way, or would they react in the same way that you just did with your hothead, like anger, hotness, red hot? And it's probably like, well, no. And would everyone be devastated because of a fender bender? Well, no. Like, there's a balanced reaction, and then there's a spiked reaction, and then there's like a suppressed, I'm not going to feel anything reaction. And so it's not about feeling nothing. It's not about like being down here. It's about feeling and expressing ourselves in a balanced manner. And, you know, for very traumatic experiences, balance is going to be way up here because it's a very traumatic experience. But I'm just talking fender bender. So that experience, like nobody got hurt, just little scratches, like a couple little dents in the car. That is here, right? Like no one is injured. Yes, your vehicle is a little bit dinged up. You're going to have to take it to the shop, insurance, time, like in the shop, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like taking a moment to consider, well, where are my reactions at? Are they balanced for the situation? Like, would I say that how I'm reacting is a balanced reaction based on the severity of what I'm experiencing right now? And it's a little bit of self-reflection, definitely. And it's a little bit of self-awareness. And it's a little bit of like, actually like, well, looking like it's like a little bit of ownership where you're looking at yourself and you are maybe making, I'm not going to say comparison, but it's just like, it's finding that what you feel. Because what is balanced for one person might not be balanced for another person, right? Like we all have our own range based on our personality and like who we are at our core and, you know, the type of person that we truthfully are. But it is important to take that moment and ask yourself, well, what would a balanced range of reaction be to this fender bender right now? And am I anti-reactive to it? Which that's not good because you're just suppressing everything, which also suppresses happiness. Or am I exploding about it? And am I pissed off and angry and losing my shit, which I'm spiking? And that's not in the balanced range either. And that's also taking you away from being happy. So that's just another, again, just like I'm just passing on skills. I'm just passing on tools for you to use, you know, in your day-to-day that is going to help you find a balanced range to function in, you know, like it's going to go up and down, but it'll help you find this balance. And when you're balanced, you're able to be more connected to your happiness because you're not crashing, you're not anti-feel, but you're also not spiking. However, let's say that you're a hothead, like I have been a lot of my life. And let's say that you realize like, oh man, it was just a fender bender and I lost my shit and I was so angry and I was like just not a nice person and I was super bitchy and like wigging out and whatever. Okay, you've realized that that is not a balanced way to be for that circumstance. Ask yourself, well, why am I so angry? Well, because my car got dinged up. Well, do I need to be that angry because my car got dinged up? Like, is that necessity? Do I have to be that angry? No. Well, why was I that angry? Well, because that's what I learned. So maybe you learned to be angry when things didn't go your way or when things went wrong. Okay, well, who did I learn it from? Mom, dad, grandparents, sibling, whatever. You might get an answer, or you might get, I don't know. I learned it, but I don't know who I learned it from. It's just in me. That's just my pattern. That's just my programming. That's just how I react. But you can change how you react. we can totally change how we react. And it's funny because acting, so not like the theatrical movie show acting, but like acting, it's like, well, I acted this way. That is a thought out process on some level, but a reaction is like the action before you even know you're taking action. It's like a pre-action. So our reactions, we don't have much control over those. Like some people are very good at like stifling their reactions. However, if you suppress anything, it's still there. It's still at the level that it comes at. You've just learned how to push it down and like keep it in and lock it in and suppress it. It doesn't mean that it's not there. It doesn't mean that that energy isn't there. It doesn't mean that the emotion's not there. It just means that like I've learned how to hold it in. I've learned how to box it up and then store it within me somewhere, which is very unhealthy. So for me, I was always very outwardly reactive. I know tons of people that react and they're angry as shit, but they hold it in. Neither is healthy, neither is balanced. And all I'm trying to say is we can actually change how we react. We don't have to react in the same way forever. So as you ask yourself questions, okay, well, I learned it. Who did I learn it from? Maybe you'll get a family member. Maybe you'll get like a show where you saw someone lose their shit once and that's what your brain decided you should do. Or you might get, well, I don't know. I don't know where it came from. I have no freaking clue. That's a sign that you're carrying intergenerational stuff. And the question always is, well, do I need to be this way? Do I want to be this way? How is this helping me? How is this a good thing? How is this beneficial to my life? How is this beneficial to my relationships? Is this even healthy? How is this affecting my physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health? Questions. I love questions. So it's just like asking those questions to help loosen up the program and loosen up the pattern so that when you get to the point of the meditation, which we're going to begin in a few minutes, when we get to the, oh, look at that. When we get to the point of the meditation, well, then it's already loose. It's already like, oh, yeah, don't need to hold it. Don't know where it came from, or it came from my mom, came from my sister, came from my grandpa, whatever. And you've decided like, but it doesn't have to be this way because it's taking me away from my natural ability to be calm, content, happy, and peaceful. Right? And that's like, sorry, I got a little itch. That's the whole point of any growth is like, I just want to be the best version of myself. I just want whoever the truth of me is. I just want to be that person. I just want to be more light, more love, more truth, less hatred, less darkness, and less bullshit. Right? Like that's what that is. I'm just going to take a moment. I forgot to do a little thing on my phone so that I don't get beeps and dings while I'm recording this. So my bad. I apologize for that if you heard that little ding. Okay, so I'm just going to sit for a moment and see if there's anything else on this topic of conversation before we get into the meditation part. It's amazing how long I can talk. And it feels like 10 minutes, but it's been an hour, and that's crazy. So I'm just going to sit for a second, just see if there's anything else that's meant to come through. Nope, just talking about the meditation and what the point is of the meditation. So I've developed a very unique form of like active meditation or therapeutic meditation where we're actually doing stuff. Like we're actually working energetically, we're working with the emotions, we're working with the subconscious mind, we're working with our programming, like we're working with a lot of really intangible, deep things. And it's like, there's all sorts of different kinds of meditation, but this one is there's a purpose to it. There's a reason for it. It's active. It does specific stuff. Like, it's not just like a calming meditation. It's like, oh no, we're going to get in and we're going to get shit done. That's the kind of meditation that I do. Because it's like, if I'm going to do something, I want there to be a purpose for it. I want there to be like an outcome from everything that I do, basically, unless I'm like, even breathing. Like, even when I sit and I just breathe, I still have a reason for it. I still have a purpose for it. And it's like to help me just like get in touch with myself and like listen and just connect. So really, I don't do anything for no reason. There's always a purpose and there's always a reason with everything for me. And it probably drives people close to me a little bit crazy, but it's super good for you guys, because that means that like we're getting shit done and it's like, it's being helpful. And you don't have to live with me, so that's even better, because it's kind of funny sometimes. I'm a bird of a different feather, but when I'm helping people, it's very helpful. It's just, I kind of laugh. It's like, but it's a good thing you don't have to live with me, because I'm always like, there's a reason for this and there's a reason for that, and let's figure this out and work through it. And so it is how I am. So the purpose of the meditation is literally what we've done through the conversation is we have got a whole bunch of stuff out on the table. So all this stuff was unknown, unrealized, unaware, hidden, boxed up, bottled up, bagged up, and we've brought all of this stuff out onto the surface, onto the table, into the surface, into the light of day. And if you want, you can like take your time to do more journaling about all the things that I brought up and all the things that I've talked about before you do the meditation, so that you can get like even more out on the table, so that we can flush and shift even more in the meditation. So I will leave that up to you. If you want to do more than what has come to you as I've been talking and sharing with you, totally good. If you want to go back and re-listen a couple times, like maybe once a month, or a few times in a short time frame to get as much flushed out as you can, and then maybe once a month, or maybe you'll get to the point where it's like, wow, like I feel clean and clear, I'm feeling happy again. Then you're good with this topic. I always like checking in again. Like I check in on lots of stuff, because we never sit still with life. Like we're always I don't know which way is forward and back when I'm on this camera, but we're always in a state of constant motion. So, and life is always happening and new things are always happening. And so there's always reason to go back and check in on how we're doing with how open we are with our happiness inside of us. Okay. So the meditation, we've got all this stuff out on the table. We've got it all out in the open. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a meditation that is going to carry it all away. And we're going to let it all go. And then we're going to expand and open up the happy, calm, peace, content within us. Because, like, in my opinion, it's logical sense to me. Like, why would we focus on the good and the positive and this and that? Like, why would we focus on that first when we're full of shit? Like, we're full of it. It's like oozing out of our pores. Like, wow, why, how much positive, good, happy things could even be brought in when your inner house is completely full of shit, right? Like, it's just, logic-wise for me, it's like you gotta clear out the shit. You gotta clean that out, clean out the rooms, so that you got something to work with. You have some space. You have some like room to move and then bring in what you want. You can't like have all these boxes and all this poop all over the place and all this yucky stuff and then be trying to like bring in all of like roses and sunshine and rainbows and all this good stuff in amongst all the poop. Like it's gonna dull and dim the effect of what the goodness could be. So my logic is like, flush out the stuff, clean out the stuff, acknowledge the stuff so you can get it out, and then you have a whole clear, empty, awesome space to level up with and bring in more of what you actually desire. Okay? So that's the method to like, it makes sense to me. So that's the order in which I do things. Which also means that I acknowledge the shit, which a lot of people I find don't. They just want the good stuff, but I just feel that so many people out there are missing a step. And that's just, it's not that I'm saying I'm right, they're wrong. I just have a different approach. I'm not saying they're right, I'm wrong. I just have a different approach. I have different logic than what a lot of people have. And it's like, hey, whatever works for whoever is great. I think variety is the spice of life. I think we need lots of different options so that people can find what actually works for them. So I'm offering an option. So that is logical to me. It's all about logic. Like I'm very abstract, but I'm also very logical. And so the abstract has to also be logical in order for it to be a thing for me. So what we're going to do, we're going to move some stuff. Then we're going to bring the goodness up and we're going to fill ourselves with it. And we're just going to like have this amazing experience where you're so clean and clear internally and you've let go of so much stuff and you're just ready to just like, open up to amazingness and awesomeness. And this chair is really noisy and I apologize, but it's comfortable. So yes, we're going to just open ourselves up and we're just going to like fill ourselves up with awesomeness. And then we're going to keep that in us. And it's going to feel way different. It's going to feel way better. And that's what I love to do because we're meant to thrive, not survive. Yes. And we're not supposed to suffer for a moment longer than what we absolutely need to in order to learn the lesson that we need to learn. So I just feel that we're all carrying so much baggage and so much pain, and it's taking us away from our happiness. Okay? So what I'd like you to do, if you're new to meditation, that's totally okay. It's very, very easy, and I'll start with like a simple little visual meditation step before we get into the meat and potatoes, okay? So I'd like you, as long as it's safe to do so, which I trust that people are logical and they will know when it's safe and when it's not safe. As long as it's safe to do so, I would like you to close your eyes and take a couple nice deep breaths. And just enjoy learning and enjoy like being here and enjoy all the stories and enjoy all of like the little thoughts and memories and things that came up for you while I was going along with my conversations and my insights and my perspectives, and just enjoy like all of everything that has come into your awareness today that is on the table. Even though it might be kind of yucky, just enjoy the fact that it's there. And just take a couple nice deep breaths. And I'd like you to imagine a frog. It could be any kind of frog, but imagine that you can see the frog, and imagine that you know what it looks like and what color it is. And like, even if you know a lot about frogs, just imagine like you know what kind of frog it is, even the size of it. Now, imagine that you can expand your visual to see, well, where is this frog? Like, look at the frog in the froggy surroundings. Okay, so you're expanding your visual to include the surroundings around this frog. And like, what do you see? What's there? And like, I'm a guide. I'm not a dictator. So I'm going to guide you, but what you see and what you experience and what you feel, like, that's all for you. Like, that's unique for you, and that's for your own individual self. And that's what I love about what I do, because it's like, I'm not forcing people to see certain things. It's like, well, I'll give you some parameters to follow, but whatever you experience within those parameters is meant for you. Like, that is for you. That is your higher self personalizing your experience. That is your intuition. That is your own self personalizing your experience within the parameters that I'm creating for you. Okay? So there is no right or wrong. That's basically what I'm trying to say. No right or wrong, no good or bad, no left or right, no up or down. There's just whatever your higher self and your intuition and your heart and your soul and your mind wants to share with you today, now that you've connected. Okay? So what I would like you to do now, that you see this frog and you see the colors of the frog and the type of frog, and you see the frog's surroundings, is we want to we want to engage your other inner senses. So we're not using the physical senses right now. We're using your imagination. We're using your intuition, whether you think you have it or not, you do. And we're using like I say, you're engaging your inner senses. So I'd like you to imagine that you can hear this frog. Now, who's to say? Maybe the frog speaks English. Maybe the frog speaks a different language. Maybe the frog sounds like a frog. Maybe the frog sounds like a rooster. Who am I to say? All I'm saying is that you can hear the frog. So imagine that your inner ears can hear this frog. And now I want you to imagine that it's not a poisonous frog and you can hold the frog, or you're touching the frog, or you're using your sense of touch for something. Like, maybe you have a cup or like a little cage thing, and you can feel, like, you're imagining that you can feel the cage, and you're petting the frog or touching the frog, or you're putting the cage over, like whatever, or doing something completely different, but you're using your inner sense of touch. Okay? Now, imagine that someone has come to you because you're very, very hungry. And imagine that someone that you love and care about has come to you, and they're putting a piece of something in your mouth. Like, the first thing that came to me was a piece of cheese. But now that you kind of have froggy hands, you don't really want to be touching food. I'm being very sanitary here. But someone came to you and they're putting something in your mouth because all of a sudden you're very hungry. Okay? So whatever that is, you're eating it, and you can taste it, and you can feel the texture of it in your mouth. And imagine what it tastes like. And it might not taste like what you think it should, but go with whatever comes. Don't block what's coming. Just go with whatever comes. So now we've got sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. Let's do something. Oh, imagine that wherever you are in the surroundings of this frog, you can smell what the smell smells like. You can smell the smell. So just imagine that you're taking like a big like sniff in, and just go with whatever the smell is. Again, don't dictate to yourself what the smell has to be. Be open to receiving whatever the smell is meant to be. That's the secret. It's not about forcing what you think it should be. This is an exploration. This is you being open to whatever it is meant to be. not what you think it should be. Because when you use your intuition and you use your imagination, you're not actually thinking. You're not using the thinking part of your mind. You're using a different part. I don't even know what part, but you're using a different part where you're learning, you're receiving, you're experiencing the unknown. Okay? And it's not always the logical. It's not always the, oh yeah, well, cheese is going to taste like this. Not with intuition and not with imagination. And that's the fun part. I love that. It's like, oh my God, it tastes like this. Like, what a surprise. Like, it's the first surprise I've had in a year for some of us, right? Other than the surprise of my kid hitting his head and having, getting hurt. That was a surprise. But let's make some good surprises for ourselves, not just like sad, icky surprises, okay? All right, so now that you know, you're all educated about my style of meditation, now what we're going to do is we're going to go, imagine that you are going into yourself somewhere, whether it's your mind, your body, your heart, your feet, doesn't matter. But you're going into yourself and you're finding where your inner happy, where the core of your inner happiness is. Like maybe it's in your heart, maybe it's in your gut, maybe it's in, I don't know, your lungs or your ribs or your neck, or I don't know, like wherever it feels to you that your happiness, the core of your happiness is, no matter how freaking small it is. It might just be one tiny little fleck of sand and everything else is piled on top. I'm not sure. Probably for me, when I first started to find my happiness, I feel like it was like one speck of sand. It was like a multicolor, like shimmery, iridescent speck of sand. Like that was all I had left. I had piled so much shit on top of it. I'm hoping it's not that bad for you, but if it is, it is. Just accept it, right? So find that little core, the little happiness core within you, and just sit with it for a moment and ask all of the rest of you, what happiness cover-uppers, what happiness cover-uppers, what happiness taker-awayers, what happiness fogger-uppers am I ready and willing to let go of today? So sit at the core of your happiness. Have a look around, up, down, left, right, front, back. Have a look around and ask yourself, what am I ready and willing to let go of that has been taking my happiness, like that has been taking me away from my happiness? What am I ready and willing to let go of? What, and just imagine that your whole self is just, it's bringing it all somewhere. So from your mind, from your body, heart, soul, from your past, from your childhood, from your family tree, from like, I'm just getting like all the freaking shows you watched on TV as a kid or even as an adult or whatever, just like all of these influences, all of these places that are the cover-uppers of happiness, the diminishers of happiness, all of them. Let them all bring to you what is ready and willing to be let go of today. Okay? And just be thorough. Like, go to your childhood, go to your teenage, go to your, your past, go to your experiences, go to your mind, go to your ancestors, go wherever, use your imagination, and just know that whatever comes up for you is meant to come up for you. And I'm keeping you within parameters, but wherever you go within that, is what's meant for you. Your higher self is guiding you right now, because like I do that. I help people connect with their higher self, and then it's like magical things that happen. So trust that your higher self is helping you right now, and just allow whatever is ready and willing to be let go of to go. It's coming to the surface, like it's going from wherever it was. Okay, be thorough. If you got to pause this, pause it. That's totally fine. Take a couple deep breaths and just have a look at all of it, because all of these things are ready and willing to go. There is no attachment to you at all. You just never knew how to let them go. You were never taught. You never learned. And just know that they serve no purpose. They are not needed. Whatever lessons you got from them, you'll keep the lesson. You're not getting rid of anything that's useful to you or beneficial or helpful or that you need as you move forward in your life. Okay, you're only letting go of things that are not beneficial, not helpful. They're diminishing your happiness. They're causing issues in your life. They're putting a strain on your relationships. They're putting a strain on your health. They're putting a strain on your ability to function as a functional, productive human being on this planet. And they have no attachment to you. There's no good reason for them to be there. Now, here's the next question. Are you, like, I'm asking you, you ask yourself, am I ready and willing to let go of this stuff? So the stuff is ready and willing, but are you ready and willing to let it go? And that's important, because there has to be readiness and willingness from both parties involved with the stuff. Resistance, you will never let go of something if there's resistance. So ask yourself, am I ready to let this go? And if you get a yes, great. That means you're ready for the next step. If you get a no, that's okay too. Just keep asking yourself questions like, well, why not? Well, what do I need to hold on to? Why do I need to hold on to this? Do I have a program that tells me I'm not allowed to let go of anything ever? And well, do I want that program? Maybe the program of not being allowed to let go of stuff can leave with the rest of the stuff that's ready and willing to go. So just keep asking yourself questions and working through it until you are ready and willing to also let this go. Okay? So take a couple more deep breaths, and we will continue as though the stuff is ready and you are ready. Now I'm going to say a statement, and I'll say it 2 times, but this is the shift now. This is what is shifting all of this intangible, invisible stuff that actually affects you massively in your life. This is how you're shifting it and getting it out of you. Okay? So focus on the stuff that you're ready and willing to let go of today. And I'll say the statement on your behalf, and you create it. And the more of your inner senses, I feel like I'm in slow motion right now. Keep your eyes closed, though. It doesn't matter what I'm doing over here. The more of your inner senses that you can bring in, and the more of your inner senses, like you can see it and feel it, and you can get right in there and you can help it, and you can just touch it, and you can like really be involved with your process, the better your results are going to be. If you half-ass it, you're going to get half-ass results. If you don't do it, you're going to get the I didn't do it results, which is like really nothing, right? Well, there'll still be stuff, but why dig all this up and get it on the table if you're not going to let it go? Serves no point, right? If you've got this far, you might as well go all the way. That's right. Hard to the hoop, okay? We're not just passers. We like to score too, okay? So here's the statement. Sorry, I was thinking of all sorts of sports in that moment. I give myself permission to release, dissolve, disintegrate, send back what I did not create, and fully let go of all of these happiness diminishers that I have brought to the surface that we're all ready and willing to let go of today. And see it and feel it and make it happen and just go to town with it and be very thorough. Okay? So I'm going to say the statement again. I give myself permission to release, dissolve, disintegrate, send back what I did not create, and fully let go of all of these happiness diminishers that are ready and willing to be released today. And just whatever you're feeling in your body, great. Whatever you're noticing, whatever colors or images or sensations that you're noticing, great. It's a good thing. This is the shift. You may physically feel the shift. You may see things shifting. You may have like little sensations in your body or little twitches or little muscle pulses here and there. Totally fine. This is the shift. This is you shifting out of one way of being, and you're letting go of a whole bunch of mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic stuff. So you may feel it in your physical body. That's totally okay. That's good. You're being thorough, like high five. I'm sending you a high five right now. Okay, now be very thorough with this. Do not rush through it. Take your time. However, when you're ready, there is another step. Okay. Now it's time to open up and expand our happiness within us so that we don't need the shopping to make us happy. We don't need the booze. We don't need the party. We don't need the stuff. We don't need the person in our life constantly trying to make us happy, because we've expanded the happiness within ourselves. That's pretty awesome. It's like you're self-sufficient. Like you can fill your own tank. Like, wouldn't that be nice to be able to fill your own tank? It's good. It's really good to be able to fill your own tank. Okay, so stay with your eyes closed. Take a couple nice deep breaths, and I'll say a statement to help expand the goodness and the happiness and the good within you. And give yourself permission that it's okay to be happy, because especially in the past, there's a hell of a lot of philosophies out there and a heck of a lot of different ways that people lived where it was almost like frowned upon to be happy. It was almost like, well, how dare you? Like, life is serious and we need to be serious and we need to work and we're in survival mode. Like, there is no time for happy. You don't deserve it. Blah, blah, blah. So before we can expand our happiness, we actually have to like give ourselves permission that it's okay to be happy and it's safe to be happy. And I freaking desire and deserve to be happy, and that there's nothing wrong with being happy. Like, it's not wrong to be happy. Okay. So for whatever reason, that just came up right now. Because a lot of us are carrying a lot of really old patterns that from whenever it wasn't okay to be happy. Okay. So before we expand our happy, I give myself permission to release any program within me that is ready and willing to go, that says it's not okay or not allowed or not good to be happy. Just let that shit go. Let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Only what's ready and willing. And like I say, it's sometimes like what we're doing today, you could go from 0 to 100, but sometimes we have to go from 0 to 10, and then from 10 to 20, and then from 20 to 50. Sometimes we're not ready to go from 0 to 100 all in one shot, even though it's possible to do that. But whatever you are ready for, that is what you'll get. Whatever you're ready for, however much happiness you can handle, that is what you'll get. Okay? So don't worry about letting go of all the programming instantly that's saying happiness is bad. You might just have to let go of like one tiny little piece of it first so that you can open up one tiny little piece of bigger, more happiness within you as a first step. Now, there's nothing saying you can't come back and do this meditation again, right? To go from 20 to 50 or from 50 to 100 or 100 to 1,000 even, right? Okay. So now what we're going to do, now that we released all the programs of that we're ready for today, now we're going to say, I'll say another statement for you to expand it. Okay? So go back to the core of your happiness. Go back to where the core of that is and ask your Happy. I had a dog named Happy when I was little. It was my first dog. Like I should have known that I would be on this journey of happiness. It's like dramatic foreshadowing. I'm just realizing it right now. Like I was 2 years old and I named my dog Happy. So ironic. Yeah. It's funny, like hindsight's always 20/20, and like it's hard to connect the dots when you're in the dots, but it's so easy to connect the dots after, like once you've progressed and you can look back and it's like, well, of course Shannon is going to be obsessed with happiness because it was a thing for her even when she was 2. It was actually Happy Birthday Shani, 2 years old. But that was the name of my dog, but it got shortened to Happy. But the first word I said was like happy birthday to me. But it was just, yeah, that's really, I'm like, that's really cute. Like even like my higher self even just knew, and my little 2-year-old self just did the best she could to express that like happiness was really important to her. It's like, I feel it in my heart right now. I'm going to have to go and do a little 2-year-old Shani connection once I'm done this. But I won't get into that here with you right now because this is about you, not about me in this moment. It's just really funny how things come up. Like even the teacher is still the student, right? So that's kind of, it's fun. I just feel really happy right now actually thinking about little 2-year-old Shani. Shani was my nickname from my grandma, especially. She always called me Shani. Anyway, that's funny. Okay, so if people start calling me Shani now, I'll know why, because I told the world that my nickname is Shani. Nobody's called it to me for a long time. I have one friend that calls me Shani, and he just naturally always called me that. I don't think I ever told him that my grandma called me that. He just called me that. So my grandma and my bestest volleyball friend are like the 2 people in the world that call me Shani. And it's just, yeah, it's very near and dear to my heart. But obviously I called myself that when I was 2 because my dog's name was Happy Birthday Shani, not Shannon. Happy Birthday Shani, 2 years old. So, oh, that's cute. I love how things, and I know this will happen for you if it hasn't happened already, but you will get little memories. You will get little things coming back to you that mean something. They mean something, and it's just sitting with it for a minute and like, don't dismiss what comes. Don't dismiss that thought. Don't dismiss that memory. And just like sit with it and enjoy it for a few minutes and or ponder it. Like maybe this was an enjoyable memory for me, the rocket ship exploding, like not so much. But I learned from both of them. Like I had realizations from both of them that are meant to help me. Okay? So good memories, bad memories, they're all here to help. Okay, so go back to the root, the core of your happy within you, and ask your happy if it is ready and willing to expand within you today. Now that you've made room for it, is it ready and willing to expand for you today, within you today, so you can fill your own cup and not need outer people, places, things, events to fill your cup for you, because that's just a shot in the dark and it's very short-lived and it doesn't always invoke as much happiness as what you initially think and hope that it will. Nothing against anybody, but it's like Why give that power to somebody else? Let's keep it for ourselves and fill our own damn tank. Okay, so I bet your happiness would love to expand within you, even if it's just a little bit. Are you ready and willing to expand your happiness within you? If you get a no, just ask why. Just ask questions. I'm going to continue as though we're all at a yes. Okay? So, here's the statement. Connect with your happy. Connect with it. Hold its hand or hug it or just like meld with it in some way. But imagine that you are very connected to your happy, your true happy right now within yourself. And just create this statement within you. I give myself permission to expand and grow and embody and emanate. Oh my God, emanate. I love the word emanate. Emanate is such a good word. Just like emanate your happiness through you, wherever you can, in every level, every like mind, body, heart, soul, even your past. You can go into your past and you can deliver happiness into your past, into your family tree. Like, how deep do you want to go with this? That is up to you. But honestly, you can emanate and like share and just like offer. Don't force, but you can offer happiness to your family tree. You can offer happiness to your past. You can offer happiness to the people in your past. You can offer happiness to the little happy birthday Shani. Like, you can offer happiness, like, oh, it's just so cool. But you can just send happiness and ask that it be received to like all people, all places, all things, all times, all dimensions, all everything that resonates with you right now. And whether they receive it or not, that's up to them. But at least you're offering. If you never offered, no one would ever have the chance to receive it, right? Gotta offer, gotta give in order to receive. If you never give, there will never be anything to receive. And that is a big freaking lesson for everybody. But at least put out the offer if it feels right to do so. So just emanate and embody and expand and just like, what color is happy? I'm getting a color. It's so funny. You guys will get your own colors, but like all you have to do is ask the question and the answer appears. What color is happy? What feeling is happy? What like, oh, what sensations do you feel with this experience of giving yourself permission to just like, yeah, expand and embody and just, yeah, express happiness. Okay? It just feels so good. So make sure you're thorough with that. Make sure you just go to town with it and take it wherever you want to take it. Offer it wherever you want to offer it. Feel it wherever you want to feel it. Happiness feels good. And just sit in your bliss for a minute. Sit in this happy state. Just be in it. Just absorb yourself right into it. Feel the peace. Feel the calm. Feel the contentment. Feel the happy. And don't leave this space, but just think back to what it felt like before this moment. Think back to what it felt like last week. Think back to what it felt like before you had this experience and take note of the difference in which you feel. Okay? Feel the difference. Feel just, yeah, like how different does it feel before compared to now? And just really acknowledge the shift, acknowledge the difference, acknowledge the difference, and allow your mind to realize how real this is. Because just because something's not physical doesn't mean it's not real, right? Just because you can't see something in the physical doesn't mean that you can't see it in the non-physical. Because all of those visuals and all of those feelings and all of those memories and all of those sensations and colors and whatever, that was 100% real. 100% real. It just wasn't in the physical. It was in the non-physical. It was in your mind. It was in your emotions. It was in your energetic. It was in your intangible, like it's but it's real. It's just in a different realm. It's just like fish in the ocean. Well, you can't see them in the air. You got to go into the water to be able to see those fish. You got to leave the air realm and you've got to go into the water realm in order to see fish. But just because you don't see fish in the air realm doesn't mean fish aren't real. It just means unless you're eating it, you're not going to see it in the physical, in the air space. But sure as shit, they're in the water. There's not many waters that you can go into that don't have some kind of something in them, right? So it's just a different realm. I work in a different realm. However, this realm that you're in right now, this inner realm, I call it the inner world or the inner realm, it is just as real as the physical. You see it in a different way. You connect to it in a different way. It's not in the air. It's not in the external air realm, but they're very connected, just like air and water. They are side by side, and there's just a tiny little separation of some kind of something that separates the air world from the water world. And there's just this tiny little veil of something that separates our physical world from our inner world, from our intangible world, from our energetic world. Okay? Same thing. Same logic. All right. So as we wrap up, just be in that space as long as you like. Like, you can stay in it for the rest of the day if you want, but just take a moment as you're coming out. So the coming out process is gratitude, and you're thanking the core of your happiness. You're thanking yourself for this experience that you've given yourself today. You're thanking your mind, you're thanking your body, you're thanking your imagination, you're thanking your higher self. You can thank me if you want. I always like to receive thank yous. You're feeling that sense of gratitude for the experience that you've given to yourself today. You're thankful that you've done something to help expand and emanate. I don't know if that was even the word that I used before, but just emanate a happiness through you and out of you and all around you. It's like a little swirl of awesome. Okay? So thank you very much for joining me today, and I'm very excited to connect with you again soon. So I hope you have a great day, and when you're ready to come out of this space, come out of the space and go about your day, and just you don't have to leave your happy space. You can be in your happy space in your inner world and be doing your thing in your physical world at the same time. Okay? All right, that's it for today on this topic, and thank you so much, and I hope to connect with you again soon. Oh, I'm just gonna, before we go, I'm just gonna add a link to this page here if you would like to give something back to me in return for what I've given you today. I would much, much, much appreciate it. It's just like freedom of choice. Get what you need, give what you can. So I would appreciate any form of contribution that you would like to give back to me for what I have given to you today. So I will add that quickly before we go, and have a great day. All right, I'm just gonna find myself. Here I am. And little note. And link, and good. Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. See you later.